Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here playing Eternal Strands, and in this video I'll show you all 39 of the available in-game weapon and armor pickups. This will let you have a ton of different gear sets, so whether you want to have cold resistance, a bunch of armor, or be super agile, you should be covered in this video. We'll be tackling the list area by area, starting off with the first area of the game, Glintwood Hollow. And here you can find the Opportunist's gear set, which allows you to have max magic, which is actually a really good thing to grab pretty early on, although you won't have a lot of armor. Now, starting from Feller's Arch, which is the only loom gate in the area, directly in front of you, you should find one of the pieces. Then, just across the walkway from that, you'll find a bit of a door that you can destroy. Use flame in order to activate the lift, take the lift down, and find the next gear set piece inside. You can obviously go after these at any point, but for some of them you may need to return once you have a certain type of spell. Now from this little cave system, let's take the elevator back up, and near the top you will notice that there is a small compass in the bottom right corner, by the way. So we're going to be basically heading directly south now. Instead of the compass rotating, you are the dial in the compass. And just walk across this little pond with the tree in the middle. And on the other side, you should notice a cave, and that cave will be filled with ice. Now, there is a weather element in this game, so depending on the weather, you may see something different. All of these are shot on the clear weather, and once you do reach the end of the game, you have a little bit of flexibility there. But once you find that cave, use another fire spell or an environmental fire ability in order to get into the cave and find your next Opportunist's gear piece. Then what you can do is we'll just kind of head from here. We'll head north into that middle pond in the middle of the area. And here you'll want to go east and then up the kind of ramp. And generally here is where you'll find your boss battle, which does change every time you visit. And in this area, as you approach the top of the hill to the right, I'll show you on the map where we are, you should notice a small little carriage. And right next to it, you will be able to find the mask. I did already have this one, so you'll see me picking up in a different clip. From here, we only have one more left, and it is available not far from where we enter into the second area of the game, Dredger's Mire. If you're not able to go this deep into Glintwood Hollow, you just need to make more progress in the in-game story. Now, if you do want to take a shortcut, you can use your ensnaring blast and basically shoot yourself through the sky to get over gaps that might seem too far to cross, or you can wait till the end of the game when you get kinetic stream. We're going to be mostly heading to the east, and at the very end of the eastward path you should notice a door. I believe this connects us to Dredger's Mire, but there's also a cart off to the right hand side where if you go up to it you will be able to find the mundane two-hander, which is the third weapon type in the game, apart from sword and shield, bow, and the two-hander is basically a really strong weapon that doesn't allow you to block and takes a lot of stamina. The second area of the game is called Dredger's Mire, and here we'll be starting off from the Sapper's Lake Loom Gate. In this area, you can find the Windskull gear set, which does give extra magic regeneration speed. From the Loom Gate, let's head directly north, and near the edge of the cliff, you should be able to find a path. Now, this path might be frozen over if you're here for the first time. A little bit of a spoiler, you will clear that frost eventually as a part of the story, or you can use your Frost Shroud Vial, or you can just breathe fire, or just walk in and take the damage. But if you end up following that cliff, you'll find a small door that ends up inside of a cave, and there you'll find the Point's Headguard. Now we'll go for the Windskull Furs. Exit the cave by going to the east, and then take a 90-degree turn to the left to head north. As you head north, on the outskirts of town, you should see this building right here. And if you approach this building from the back, you should notice a small ramp that leads up to a workshop where you can find your next armor. Pick that up. If there are enemies attacking you, you'll have to wait for them to either stop attacking you, or you'll have to take care of them, obviously. Now we're going to head directly south and into town. Near the middle of the town, there is a kind of larger tree. It doesn't have a treehouse on it. I'll show you exactly where on the map I am so that you can follow along. But just to the south of this tree, there is a house. This house has a small little patio. On this patio, you will see your Windskull Strides. I don't have them as I did have a corrupt file when I recorded the pickups for the first time. So there is a little chunk of the video here where you don't see me grabbing them, but they will be there, I promise you. From there, let's head directly east towards the center of Dredger's Mire, where we have the tower. Halfway up the stairs towards the tower, there is a door. You'll want to go through that door. Inside, you will find an enemy. Through the magic of editing, I'll take care of them. And inside of this kind of little secret room, you'll find the Windskull Bracers. Next up, we can find the Flame Bow, which is something that I carried with me through most of the game. And once you reach the top of the stairs, you'll notice the huge tower. We're going to have to climb that tower just so that I can keep this video short and sweet. I am going to use the Ensnaring Blast in order to basically launch myself into the tower to climb it a little bit faster. You can also use the Kinetic Stream, but you do unlock that pretty late in the game. Or you can just climb it from the other side. If you don't have enough stamina, you can take breaks along the way. Once inside the tower, near the very, very top, you can find the Flame Bow on the table right here. Last but not least, we can find the Windskull Main. Let's head south from the tower and down the main steps that lead up to it. Watch out for the boss here. I believe that is the Ark of the Flame. That is the Ark of the Forge, Ark of the Living Flame, one or the other. Either way, at the bottom of the steps, take a little bit of a left-hand turn and keep going south. In this small lake area, you'll find a small little boat dock. I'll show you where on the map I am, and on this boat dock, you can find the main. You can then go craft the gear set for the buff. We are now in Upper Dynevron, and we're going to start from Riverside Loomgate. This is the largest area of the game, also the one with kind of the most collectibles and stuff. For those wondering, I will try to have a codex guide coming soon. Now, from where we start, we can grab the Frost Sword and Shield, which was pretty useful to me early on in the game. From Riverside, just kind of run directly in front of you, which will be eastward on that compass. If you don't have a compass, you have to enable it in the menu, and I think it only shows up when you have a selected objective. But as you're running, you should notice a door to the left, assuming you're on the clear weather, that is blocked by ice. Unblock the ice using fire, and inside find the Frost Sword and Shield. Now from there, we can find the Heartguard Armet, and what we want to do is, inside of Upper Dynevron, we want to go towards the Atrium of Champions. You can open up your map to see where that is, but for now, we're kind of going towards the north. And the Atrium of Champions is also not far from the steps. Between those two areas, there's this kind of floating island. And at this point in the recording, I didn't know you could use your Ensnaring Blast to blast yourself over little gaps like this. So I'm just gonna try to run and sprint jump. It worked out, but it's probably not the best way to do it. You do want to end up on this kind of floating island between the Atrium of Champions and the steps. And when you're here, you should be able to find a little bit of a secret door. And once you burst it open, you can find the Hearthguard Armet inside. I believe the Hearthguard gear set allows you to have maximum armor. Now for the next ones, we're going to start from the Loomgate called the Spire. And what we want to do, if you want to take a shortcut, as soon as you spawn at the Spire, look to your left, and you can just climb that wall to end up towards the steps. Go up those steps and into the next room to find the Kinetic Two-Hander. Now, the next one's a little bit of a journey, but from the Kinetic Two-Hander, we're going towards a place called Envoy's Landing, which should be on your map if you've explored the area. For now, we're going to kind of head south towards the very center, and that's usually where the boss is available. So if you're looking for the boss, he's usually kind of right in the center of the kind of town square there. And once we're in the town square, we're going to basically head towards the south side, a little bit to the east. And we, again, are going towards Envoy's Landing, which is kind of on the far right of the map there. And that's going to be at the top of these huge steps that link us from the market square. And once you're most of the way up the steps, you'll notice that there's a bridge that goes across. We're going to climb up that bridge, and once on top of it, go through the left, which there will either be a door or ice, And inside of that area, you should be able to find the Hearthguard cuisses. I believe that's a French term for the gauntlets. And for the final two, I'm going to recommend that you start from the Guild District Loom Gate, and you're going to walk kind of directly forward a little bit to the left. I'm going to use my kinetic stream here as a little bit of a shortcut, but if you don't have it, just take on your feet, and eventually, as you follow the path, you'll enter this kind of area that looks almost like a little bit of a coliseum that has no roof and some broken spires and stuff. And what you want to do is you want to actually end up behind it by going either to the left or to the right of that main wall. And then you can go down the steps here. There is a wall you'll have to break. And after you break that wall, go into the basement and find the arc plate sitting kind of near the wall over here. Last but not least, you can find the gauntlets. And this one can be a little bit difficult to grab. You are going to need either kinetic stream or you're going to need the ensnaring blast level 3. I'd recommend not going for this if you have a lot of items in your inventory, as there is a large chance you fall and die, so you can always come back for it later. And what you want to do is you want to end up kind of near the bottom left corner of the map, actually not that far from the Riverside Loom Gate. And for the purposes of the compass, that is going to be in the southwest direction. And once you kind of reach the southwest corner of the map, you should notice that there are some floating islands. And on these floating islands, there's actually a collectible that's just floating in the sky between these two islands, which is actually one of the harder ones in the game, I think. But what you have to do is you have to get to the far island, and you want to either use an ensnaring blast to launch yourself over there, or you can always use the kinetic stream, which makes it a little bit easier. There's an enemy on there, and once you get there, just take them out and grab the gauntlets. We are now in Lower Dynevron. You'll come here as a part of the story, but there is a link in Upper Dynevron, not far from Envoy's Landing. We are at the first loom gate you'll access once you enter the area. There's a couple of collectibles here, but this is a pretty small area in general. So we'll go for the Trapper's Crown first. The Trapper's gear set allows you to have maximum weight reduction, which can be pretty useful, but I found that I'd rather have the maximum stamina if I was going for stamina, or if I needed the armor, I'd go for something like health or armor. So this kind of falls in an awkward place between the two, in my opinion. But I guess for some people, if you are having a weight reduction problem, this one's good. You'll end up kind of coming into the town square here. It's the smaller version, the first one you can get. And if you drop off the side of the cliff, you can enter into a secret dungeon. You will come here as a part of a side quest, in case you are wondering. So you'll grab that. And then we'll go for the flame, sword, and shield. I will pull up the map here a little bit, but we are headed kind of eastward as we exit that cave. And you will have to climb a little bit of the wall here. But once you climb the wall, let's continue going in the general direction we were headed, which was eastwards from the loom gate we started at. You'll come to this large area where you can turn either left or right. You'll want to go left and then follow the path and keep an eye out on the right-hand side for an opening. And in that opening, you'll find a bunch of collectibles as well as the flame, sword, and shield. From that, let's go ahead and just turn around and head up the stairs that are right beside you and then climb up that wall. We do have to get a little bit kind of higher vertically than we were. Once you climb that wall, just hop over to the other side and take a little bit of a left-hand turn. You want to end up in this walkway right here. You'll notice that there is a metal grate on the floor. If you look through it, you'll notice that there's enemies underneath you. So let's go ahead and visit those enemies. And once you end up in this area, you'll find another staircase that leads even further down, and that leads to a door you can break. And behind that door are the Trapper's Wraps. There will be some enemies, so make sure you're not in combat when you grab them. Next up, let's get the shin guards. Let's go ahead and exit out of the area we were just in. There has been some carnage, but let's go ahead and head directly south. And when you are heading south, you'll end up kind of at the edge of the map very, very quickly. There'll be a floating island. You can just run and jump, but if you want to be safe, I'd recommend trying the Ensnaring Blast and just launching yourself over safely. And if you land on the island, you should be able to find those shin guards. Last but not least, we'll start from the Broker's Arch Loom Gate. And from the Broker's Arch Loom Gate, you can kind of walk directly forward. You'll enter into what is probably the real town square, and this is where the majority of the boss battles will happen in Lower Dynevron. And if you just kind of run directly across from where you spawned, I am going to try to use my Ensnaring Blast to launch myself a little bit forward. You'll notice that on a clear day, at least, there will be a frozen door. And here you can either use the environment to unfreeze it, or you can use your, Dragon's Breath or whatever you want. Unfreeze it or break it open and find the Trapper's Tunic inside on the left. Next up, we're in the area called the Bastion, which is accessible from Upper Dynevron using a door not far from the steps and the spire. As soon as you enter, go ahead and go forward, and on the first gap in the walkway, if you drop down directly underneath you, you'll find some rocks that are blocking a cave. You can either attack your way through them or try to use your grasp in order to move the rocks. But inside that little cave, you'll find the Pathbreaker thigh boots. Now, the Pathbreaker gear set allows you to have bonus health. It's actually the gear set I used for most of the game because it was the first one I found. Now, from the Loom Gate in the Bastion, we're going to grab the rest of them. So from that Loom Gate, if you take a turn to your right and then climb the wall, you'll end up near some waterfalls. And here you can find the headband. And it'll just be kind of sitting not far from this campsite right here. This is unfortunately a clip where I also had a corrupted file, so you won't see the collectibles on screen, but I will have them for the rest of the video. Now, let's go ahead and grab the Frost Two-Hander. The Frost Two-Hander, go to the center of the area. You'll notice this kind of big market-looking place. The main boss often likes to hang out here. And on a clear day, you'll notice this frozen door. Use either the environment or your spells to unfreeze the door. Head inside to find the Frost Two-Hander. This is the first two-hander I personally found in my playthrough, and the one that is on my back in this clip, but the one that I used to carry me through the entire game. Now, from there, let's go ahead and find the Pathbreaker wraps. Exit that little ice cave, and then go across the town square and up the steps. At the top of the steps, go on top of the short building directly in front of you. And once up here, there are two collectibles. Let's grab the kind of harder one first. Staying up on this roof, go through this door, and here you'll find an elevator inside. Use fire in order to activate the elevator switch and ride the elevator down into this pit area. You will have to come here as a part of a side mission if you are wondering. But once you are down here, go ahead and light the little switch at the end of the hall. Watch out for the enemies, but with that gate now opened, head inside, and on the far right corner, you can find the Pathbreaker wraps. With those out of the way, let's go ahead and exit by taking the elevator lift back out of this area, which I believe is called the Garrison. And once you get up to the top, let's go ahead and walk out the door and to the right. And then here you'll want to just attack the ground in order to get into the area below our feet. And once you do get in here, there are usually a couple of enemies, but you'll also find the Pathbreaker half-male that's chilling on a desk near the kind of far corner here. Last but not least, we can find the kinetic bow. To grab the kinetic bow, you'll want to exit out of this area and go towards the keep. The keep is the huge tower that is kind of in the corner of the map. And you'll want to actually end up on the top of the tower. You'll either need a lot of stamina or start with an Ensnaring Blast or Kinetic Stream to get yourself most of the way up to the top. From the top, you should have a couple of enemies. Watch out that they don't break everything. And you should be able to get inside of the tower. Then you'll want to use the stairs and go downward until you end up on the floor beneath you. Now, I accidentally destroyed the floor, or rather, enemies attacked me and destroyed the floor. But on here, you'll notice that there is a pretty obvious collectible that's sitting right here against the wall. You'll want to make sure you grab it. If you do then destroy the ground, you can actually end up in an underground area as well. The next area we'll talk about is Arkon's Hearth, and here we'll start at the Luminous Loom Gate. From that Luminous Loom Gate, let's go ahead and just walk forward as quickly as possible. And in the first large room, this room is called the Manifold. The Manifold has the Fracture hand spurs, and the Fracture gear set allows you to have bonus cold resistance. It's also, in my opinion at least, probably the coolest looking one in the game. You want to basically launch yourself or climb up the wall on the left side of the Manifold room, and here you can find the hand spurs that are sitting on a ledge. Just make sure none of the enemies want to attack you. Now from here, we have to end up kind of on the far northeast side of the map, past Resonant Fields. And if you don't have that compass, it's okay. You're just looking for the kind of top right-hand side of the map if you're looking at the map itself. And what you want to do is just follow the path to the very end. And here we're in the Resonant Fields. And at the end of the Resonant Fields, you'll come to an area that just kind of opens up a bit near the Incandescent Arch. And on a ledge in the corner of the room here, you can find the Longfall, and there will be some enemies, so we'll just throw them off the cliff. This is a really fast way to take care of enemies, but not very great in terms of getting resources to upgrade your armor. So go ahead and grab the chest piece here, and then we'll go towards the Incandescent Arch, and that links us to the other part of Arkon's Hearth, where you can find the Axle Arch Loom Gate. So from the Incandescent Arch, we can drop down into this next area down here. And once you drop down here, you will be inside of the Arcane Foundry. And in the Arcane Foundry, take a right-hand turn as you drop down. There will be a lot of enemies here, usually the Spitfire, fire-breathing, kind of mosquito-looking ones. And here you'll find the Flame Two-Hander, which is a fitting weapon for the area. And I'll quickly open up the map here so you can see where I am. This is on a newer save, so there is a little bit of fog of war on my map. You're going to want to exit out the opposite side that you came in from. And once you do, you'll end up kind of in that main path. If you head south on that main path, you can then climb up on the right-hand side using some of this kind of scaffolding. And then you'll find a ice cave, and you'll either want to use your file or some fire to get through. And inside of this ice cave, at the top of the steps, you'll find the Fracture Greaves. Now this cave, like many, has two entrances, so we're going to exit out of the other one using the door that we'll need to break down. And from here, we'll end up in an area called the March, which is kind of that central lane I was talking about earlier. On the opposite side, you will find the Emergence Gate, which is this large open area where the boss likes to often roam, and there will be kind of 4 pillars in this area. As you enter the closest pillar on your right-hand side, you'll want to go there. There is usually enemies here, and a dragon often fights you, but here you'll find the Great Helm, which allows you to complete Arkon's Hearth. Last but not least, we'll end up at the Institute. This is one of the last areas you'll visit in the game, but luckily the collectibles themselves are pretty easy. From the beginning, we can go ahead and grab the Frostbow using the main loom gate there. The Frostbow is located directly in front of you inside of this container. You may have to use an attack or fire to break it open, though. The gear set for the Institute is called the Nameless Host, which is one that I used earlier on in this video, which gives you maximum stamina. Now from this Frostbow, let's go ahead and go across this gap directly south. As you cross the gap, go up the steps on the left-hand side to find the wrist guards. These ones are all kind of closely related to each other, so they're pretty quick. From there, you can drop down and then battle your way through the door that connects these 2 rooms to the west. Take a left-hand turn through the next door, and here you want to end up across the broken bridge. You can just use this cliff side if you can't make the jump or are struggling. And on the other side of that broken bridge, not far from the circular platform, you can find the next piece of armor. Now here I'll open up the map so you can see where I am. I'm in the Romanos Canal, and there is a Romanos Canal loom gate nearby. So if we just headed up this path and look to the right through this door, that's where the Romanos Canal loom gate is. So make sure you activate it. If you were to come out of that loom gate and then just walk directly forward, you'll end up inside of a tunnel, and in the very middle of the cross section of the tunnel, you will find the jackboots. The final two in this video I am going to get from the Eastern Circuit of Musing loom gate near the top right corner of the map. And for the most part, I'm just going to be heading west. The first area you'll find is the Dark Water Cistern. As you enter, you should keep an eye out on the right-hand side, and you'll notice that as it opens up, there's a little bit of a cliff that you can go up. If you go up to it at the very top, you'll notice that there is a chest as well as the nameless host mask. Last but not least, let's go ahead and grab the kinetic sword and shield by just heading west further down the Darkwater Cistern, and we'll end up inside of Expansion Cavern 36. Here, you'll have to come here for the main mission in order to take out these kind of portal spawners. But if you end up inside of the Expansion Cavern, go and look to the very top and try to climb the cliff to get up into this kind of secret cave room where you'll also find one of those spawners. But once you take it out, look to the left-hand side and you'll notice the kinetic sword and shield. That should be all of the available weapon and armor pickups for you. There are a few more that are unlocked automatically as a part of the story or as a part of a side quest, though. Once you do have all of them, make sure you go ahead and craft each one a single time to get the Expanding the Closet achievement/trophy. Thank you for watching. Hope the video was helpful. Drop a like, share the video with a friend. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Peace.